Right.
All right. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are doing a on-demand CLE. This is in partnership with in-person CLE that we did the other week with the with a few members of the FBI Cybersecurity Task Force. They are not allowing us to record what we heard in person the other day. But I am here with Russell Vaughn from Ascend Technology Group, our OBA technology partner. And Russell was at the CLE with us. Russell does a tremendous amount of work in this area. He is going to walk us through some of the things that we did talk about the other week, and also what we can do to hopefully protect our clients and ourselves from some bad actors in the cybersecurity realm. This is approved for 1 hour of CLE credit for on demand and will be approved through for the next 2 years, so into 2027. In Nebraska, it'll be approved for Iowa credit through 2026. Um, at a starting place, I sort of want to let the those of you watching know that why is this important for y'all? You have clients every day that are dealing in the world of cybersecurity issues, bad actors trying to get their money, trying to get their information. You are a sophisticated actor that these bad actors, these hackers, these thieves from all over the world, they want the money that you have. They want the information you have. It's currency to them. And so we're here so you can be a better counsel to your clients. We're here because they're coming after law firms and they're coming after lawyers. We've had some breaches in the last 2 weeks in the Nebraska court system, in the State Bar Association. We certainly have people coming after the Omaha Bar Association through some of these scams that we're going to talk about. And so, uh, our life in 2025 and in future years is having technology try to be used against us and try to be used against our clients. And so I know it's there's a bit of overwhelm, but we're going to try to take it slowly through it and give you some tips and some ideas on how to protect you and the clients along the way. We're not here to browbeat you and say, hey, if only you had been smarter, done more along the way. We're here to look at solutions for the future, um, that we're going to work along with you to try to have a safer Omaha Bar Association and legal community writ large, because they are coming after us, and we have some stats on that. So I'm going to turn over to Russell here, and he's going to walk us through one of the ways that they can come after you and your clients for some of that hard-earned money that they think is their own. Russell.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be here, and hopefully we can offer some helpful insights for the OBA community. As you said, aim isn't to browbeat anybody or pressure people into making big changes or different choices, but ultimately, like we always tell our clients, like the bad guys are going after low hanging fruit, and nobody's going to be bulletproof, but it's our job to help make sure that you're not the low hanging fruit. And so I think that everybody should be able to walk away with some insights today to know that that's not them. I kind of want to start by just diving into the anatomy of a cyber attack and what the bigger play is. Because a lot of times we see fragments of it, we see our own little perspective on it, and you wonder what's the play? Like, why did they get $1,500 in Apple gift cards from that guy? Like, how does that benefit them? Where's this money going? Um, some things we do know that the FBI, the NSA have revealed to us is that these cyber threats are largely very organized crime syndicates. Some are state sponsored. The U.S. State Department a couple of years ago said that North Korea has funneled billions into their nuclear program through state-sponsored cybercrime. The FBI guys that presented to the bar association at the in-person gathering were highlighting the massive spike in cyber incidents in 2023 as two countries, Russia and Ukraine, were having to figure out how to fund a war. But picture this with me. You're in an apartment in Nigeria. This apartment's got multiple tables set up, and at the tables there's different guys with a laptop, and they're all sitting down doing their thing, and you have somebody who's almost like a supervisor walking around. And what happens is at these tables, you might have one guy who his job is to be just going through a list of emails that were exposed in a data breach. And he's just trying credentials in those emails, just seeing which ones might be able to get into. If one he gets into one and there's no multi-factor, then what he does is he passes that off to the next table. Their job is to figure out what they could manipulate and mine from that email, research the person, and then he's going to figure out which ones have multi-factor. And then he's going to pass that on to a different table. And then they'll kind of throw away the list maybe of the ones that they can't get into. Um, and as they gain access to these accounts, we've all seen the different pieces of this where maybe somebody gets a fake invoice, payroll gets a notice to send a paycheck somewhere different. I'm going to share a slide with you here that is borrowed from our presenters last week, but I think it does such a phenomenal job painting the anatomy of an attack. So let me just share this here quick. So you got Richard here. Richard is he's in that apartment. He's at one of those tables. His job isn't checking emails, but his job is actually to initiate romance scams. And so he's on, maybe it's a romantic website, maybe it's just on Facebook, commenting on somebody's posts that he finds is a potential target. And so he finds Susan. Susan's lonely, Susan's, for whatever reason, susceptible. And he begins to initiate contact and conversation. And they begin a relationship. Susan starts to trust Richard, look forward to their conversations. And so this goes on. And then we have another guy back at that Nigerian scam center, Alex. Now, Alex, he's not on the romance team, but he's on the email fraud team. So one of these email addresses that gets compromised, Alex is behind that. And actually, this picture here, the FBI guys, they said they told AI to create an image of a Nigerian scam center or a scam center. And this is what it came up with, which isn't far from the truth. So we have our Alex and Richard somewhere in the tables here. So Alex gets in passed to him Cindy's email account that they were able to get access to, whether it was from a data breach or she put her credentials in a phishing email. And so now Alex has access to Cindy's email. And when bad guys get in there, typically they sit in there for weeks or months, unless they find something right away or have another aim. But he scans through Cindy's emails long enough to find out that she's doing business with Globex Corporation. And Globex regularly sends payments to Acme Inc. And so Alex, now pretending to be Cindy, emails Jerry and says, hey, we've updated our payment information, send payment here instead. And so Jerry has interacted with Cindy a lot of times. He doesn't think anything of it. And so Jerry made changes of payment information, which is actually coming from Alex, not Cindy. And the payment information sends the money to Susan. So why would Jerry send money to Susan? Well, Richard, who's won her trust and she's infatuated with, says, hey, I've got some, I'm going to send you some money and I need you to send it back to me in Bitcoin, whatever his story is. It doesn't arouse suspicions. This happens all the time. And so Susan's like, sure. So money pops into her account. Nothing to suspect. And so then Susan takes that money, gets some crypto, and sends it back to Richard according to his instructions. And Richard then, has the money free and clear. And something else that's been shared is a lot of these Nigerian groups are actually state sponsored or sponsored by Chinese actors, because they take these transactions and sometimes these transactions are legitimate. Maybe they have Jerry send it somehow direct to, something that Richard has set up. And so it needs to move through legitimate banking systems also. And then the countries that host those banking systems benefit immensely. So it's kind of wild how it all works together when you think of just hey, this company or this client had their email compromised, or this law firm had their email compromised, but it ties into this global fraud network that actually has exceeded $10 trillion in revenue. Let's see here. I'm going to share another slide with you just to show where we're at right now. Yeah, so here we are. This is from the FBI's IC3.gov website. And what terrifies me about this is when you think about the magnitude of a $10 trillion number for the global impact of cybercrime. And it's not like they're saying it's gonna, we're gonna get better. They're just projecting the impact of that fraud to continue to grow exponentially in the upcoming years.
And so back to this the schematic of the of the scam, if we could for a second, Russell. The people may be kind of wondering why this sort of happens like this. Um, when it comes to Nigeria, the FBI was talking about how you can't necessarily send money directly there. So you have to use, Binance or a crypto exchange. Um, and also you're going from Cindy and Jerry, who may be fairly sophisticated actors, business people who are doing these things, and taking it to Susan, who's a lower level of sophistication, higher level of trust, lower level of sophistication, and her willingness to take money that is real in her bank account because it was sent from a real company and send it to a crypto exchange. And so getting that money out of there does require some lower level sophistication. So this in concert together is really a fascinating play. Um, but it shows that it's not necessarily just that direct. If I don't, if I don't do something, then nothing's going to happen. Well, you know, uh, if you're using the same login information for your billing software that you're using with your clients, that could potentially be hacked, and they could be sending emails from you, and you have no idea, and it could go through this whole process. It really shows that there's a lot of points along the way where there's vulnerabilities and they're exposed um, just through everyone getting tested, no matter if you have the highest level of security or not. They're basically going out there and trying to test everybody um, in the system, which is scary but also real. Um, you know, how many of us have spam emails every day? Trying to do this, we see it on a regular basis. We're kind of numb to it, maybe in some respects.
Yeah, and I don't think enough people take business email compromises as seriously as we should. I've got some data back here on just the financial impact of business email compromises alone. Uh, in 2024, this is from the FBI's IC3.gov website. So in 2024, $2.7 billion was lost due to business email compromises. Average loss, $123,000. And this is with 21,800 reported victims. But the thing about those numbers also is this is just how many people reported it. There's an astounding number of people that do not report, say that they got compromised or that because they don't want to erode trust. They don't want it to be, publicly identifiable. Sometimes people are afraid of getting in trouble. We have one law firm that we work with that had a very near miss with ransomware, and like we caught it, we stopped it, but a federal agency took note, and they were like, "Are we going to be in trouble?" Like, no, you didn't do
Sure.
anything wrong, but that's a natural reaction that people have. Um, in Nebraska alone, about $70 million was lost due to business email compromises, and over 60% of that is with small businesses. So another misnomer out there is that this is targeting enterprise organizations. They're looking for low-hanging fruit, and it's majority of it ends up hitting small businesses, small firms, because a lot of them don't have best practices in place, which we'll get into a little bit more later. When we talk about loss and concerns, I think a lot of people's mind goes to ransomware as
Yeah.
what they're afraid of getting. It's still a thing, but we seem to be seeing a little bit less of it. But still, in 2024,
Russ,
813 million.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
Russell. Can you just give us a quick definition for those uh, not aware of what ransomware is?
Yeah, well, with definition, essentially, you get a malicious file on your computer that locks up all of your files or access to your files, and in turn extorts you to send so much Bitcoin here, or we're not going to give it back, or a blackmail. Like, there was a counseling agency that I heard about last year that they had their files all taken and they were blackmailed. If you do not pay us this much in Bitcoin, we're going to release all your patient records publicly, and your private notes about their sessions are going to embarrass them and ruin their business. And so sometimes it's
Wow.
in the form of blackmail, but
Sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to
no,
make sure everybody is on the same page.
no, you're good. It's still just massive numbers, and this is just U.S. impact alone. Again, we go global, and we have that $10 trillion number. We're definitely seeing a change. A question I get a lot too is how is AI affecting cybercrime and our defenses? Threat actors are using AI to build smarter malware. There's seen more variance in 2025 with AI generated malware. Attackers are using large language models to create more convincing phishing emails. The misspelled Nigerian prince scheme has gotten much more specific. They're using AI to help craft, intentional, they call it spear phishing, where you're intentionally going for someone. Um, and AI driven automation is just multiplying how many attacks they can launch at one given time. So those are some of the primary impacts we're seeing from AI in this space.
And one thing that the FBI talked about, and they kind of pointed at me because I raised my hand and talked about my situation was, you're utilizing these AI platforms like we do, and the log information is may be compromised in that way, and they can see a lot of what you're putting into the AI system, your prompts, your files, what it's doing, and so be careful of necessarily what your security around using AI and what you're putting in there, because if that system is compromised, that could also be an issue. And rightly so, we say, oh, well, if it's not on the cloud, it's not, you know, using that information in its model, but it's just giving us things out of it. It's secure. Well, at the same time, if those hackers, those bad actors can get into that system, they can see all that stuff, and they could even manipulate it and put in things going forward. So uh, that kind of scared me a little bit on maybe how we're using it, certainly as well. And there are free AI models out there that may be backed by state actors that have um, some ability to use it for nefarious purposes down the way as well. So just be careful with what AI system you're on, because there are going to be some cheaper freeware models that may be um, not really secure in the long run.
Yeah. 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 And the whole topic of securely using AI could be an entire webinar itself. I got a few more stats I can share if you feel like that'd be relevant.
Yeah.
Um, let's go back to this guy. So this is from Verizon's 2024 data breach data, and in 2024, this is with law firm or professional services, which I assume would include law firms, accounting, maybe engineering. But so reported almost 2,600 security incidents, 1,300 confirmed breaches, 85% of those involved social engineering, system intrusion, or human behavior. That's a really big one to take note of. And one of the reasons companies have to have an intentional cybersecurity awareness training. Everybody's busy. You're working in a world where every hour is billable. So every hour you're not, doing billable work, you're leaving money on the table. But uh, we have to make people aware in our organizations of what the threats look like, because the intentionality is astounding. We're a small to mid-sized managed IT service company here in Omaha, Nebraska. Um, I had just a week or two ago. somebody called and left a voicemail and said that they were referred to us and they wanted to learn more about our services. And they left me an email address in the voicemail. I thought, oh, that's kind of weird, but so I emailed them. And of course, they targeted me because my job in the firm is our overseeing our sales and marketing. So they thought this guy's gonna be the one most interested in prospective new client. They kind of try to lower this barrier of uh, to build some trust by saying I was referred to you by somebody who works with you. So I emailed them and I emailed them a link to my calendar to try to set up a time to connect. And they emailed me back a day or two later and they said, something. And they emailed me a link to their calendar, which I was like, well, that's kind of strange. Did they not read my email? I already sent a link. So I click on it and it went to a Teams page. Looked just like a Microsoft Teams logo and everything. And click here to book appointment. I click there, and then it triggers a sign in. It says, "Oh, you have to sign in." And then I knew immediately that this was a scam. But we had a client hit by something similar a couple weeks ago. They received an invoice from a vendor. They were expecting it. They clicked on it. It wanted them to log in with Office 365. They logged in. They approved their MFA. And so, the training has to be there to, so people understand you should never have to log in to see a document that somebody sends you, major red flag. Um, and then, last on the Verizon data, ransomware and business email compromises kind of dominate what we see for breaches and risks that businesses face.
You know, one thing that, or two things that they talked about, we are really living in a world when we're getting targeted here in Nebraska. They said at least 8 local law firms have been targeted in the last 8 months. They said farmers, rural area business owners, Nebraska, Midwest, Northern Plains, um, get targeted a lot. They have a lot of money. They're low sophistication, low security for the amount of money, and so there's extra focus on us in particular. And so being out on that edge means that we're facing more than the average area of practice, but also just in general in the Midwest. Um, well, it's not necessarily something that we have to deal with, except for maybe some of our banking attorneys. The jackpotting was interesting. Uh,
Yeah, do you
this
want to share what the jackpotting was?
Sure. It's just a crazy sort of scenario where these ATMs are basically computers in the top half, and in western Nebraska, middle of the night, these people, they said most of them were cartel people would basically hack those computers, and the ATMs just spit out all their cash per hour or more through the night, and instead of pulling the ATMs out of the ground and going and trying to break into the stash of cash at the bottom and possibly deal with dye bags and security cameras. They are literally just sitting at the ATMs just with bags, and they're just letting all that cash come out, hacking that system, and upwards of what, 150 $200,000 in cash in these ATMs that they're taking out for an hour and a half at night, like crazy. And that, like, the Nebraska to Wyoming, Montana, Dakota sort of area is just a huge place where they're doing this. And up to, like, in Nebraska in the last 8 months, there's been 12 million in attempted thefts, 5 million in actual losses at these ATMs. And we did have somebody in the actual room that um, had a banking client that was dealing with this. That told me after the fact, yeah, this is real. We're trying to deal with these losses, and who's to blame for these losses other than obviously the criminals, but who's going to pay to make the bank whole for all that money being lost. So just like kind of a fascinating thing that these ATMs are just spitting out money. I guess it's like Terminator 2, right? Where I guess he does that at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, just
That
put a
that is a real
virus
thing.
in it.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, the jackpotting scheme is going on right now, and it's just any point of vulnerability that they can find. And so we're dealing in a world like that, and maybe right now can we kind of switch to some things that maybe a couple of things that maybe we should do to help ourselves along the way here to just lessen the chances that we are at the bottom of the low-hanging fruit, not necessarily to the top of the tree, but just off that bottom. You talked about MFA. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as best practices go, they're not wildly complex how to reduce your risk and not be the low-hanging fruit. Um, Multi-factor authentication, Microsoft has said that 99% of cyber attacks took place against businesses or organizations or accounts that didn't have MFA enabled. And so if anybody's not familiar with it at this point, it's where you have your password and then you have an app on your phone to verify it's you before getting access. According to the American Bar Association 2023 report, and actually the 2024 report showed the exact same stat that only 54% of law firms are having their teams use two-factor authentication. It's a couple-year-old stat, but in 2023, it came out that only 20% of small businesses have multi-factor authentication enabled. And so this just has to be the baseline starting place. If you have a third-party IT company that's helping you out or your internal IT person, something to ask if you are that decision maker in your organization is it enforced? Because you can turn it on for some accounts and have it off for other accounts still, unless at the tenant level you have it enforced. So just a question to consider.
Yeah, that I guess that is a good question. So, you know, like we have accounting software, and when I'm, they say ask for login information. What do you want to do to sign up? Here's a username. Here's a passcode. And then you have an option, or you should have an option in all these systems to select an option for multi-factor authentication, maybe in settings once you log in for the first time, sort of set that up.
Yeah, if it doesn't prompt you for it when you're setting it up. Usually if you go to your profile, generally under security or password, you'll find the multi-factor option. So,
Okay.
your QuickBooks, your Clio, your Carrot, your NetDocs, whichever platform you're using, should definitely have it on there. Right. Taking it a step more complicated, if you have people that, sometimes work from home, or if they do use a VPN, you can also set up IP-based logins. So if you're, nervous somebody credentials could get compromised into your legal documentation platform, you can set it up to where, a bad guy can't log in from their IP address as another layer of security.
Nice.
When it comes to compromises, it all ties back to passwords. Like those are our keys to everything digital in our world. And passwords, it's astounding how so many people are still pretty loose about it. 80% of all cyber incidents involve compromised credentials or passwords. 51% of people polled rely on a password that they can just remember in their head and tend to reuse it on many platforms. 33% of law firms require use of a password manager, according to the American Bar Association cyber report. So that means 2/3 aren't using a password manager. Without a password manager, it's impossible for us to use complex passwords or to have unique accounts for everything we access. 13% of Americans use the same password for everything. And actually, Microsoft put out that 23 million accounts still use the password 123 456.
I feel personally attacked. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, might
There's
want
an
to change that
exclamation mark
before
at the
you.
end of mine.
Yeah, there you go. Might want to change that before you make this webinar public.
Yeah.
This is kind of an interesting chart here on the impact of more complex passwords. So the time it would take to crack a password, like if it was 123 456, under 10 characters, instantly a password cracker could get through that. Like an automated tool that a threat actor can download from the dark web for dirt cheap, if not free. If it's then you see like it increases a little bit. Like, okay, let's say you're 9 characters. You're now using uppercase and lowercase letters. Now it's going to take that 19 hours to get through. Add a number, you got 3 days. Add a symbol, you got 3 weeks. But then as that complexity and length starts to increase, look at, 16 character password, just numbers. Now we're at 2 days. Keep going down the road, and 37 billion years till their password cracker with today's technology will get through it. And so again, the only way you can have a unique randomly generated password for every account you have is going to be to use a password manager that can randomly generate those and store those. If you store your passwords in your web browser, I highly advise that you export those into a password manager and delete them. Just by clicking the wrong link on something, a threat actor can capture all those username and passwords. We were doing a cybersecurity test assessment and vulnerability assessment for a local company here in Omaha a couple of years back. And I remember this tool, it does kind of just simulate how you click one link and it captures all your passwords. And they're somewhat obfuscated, but it kind of shows what is captured by the tool. And so we delivered the report to the owners of this company. And the person who they had us test was the president of the company. And I think this was a very maybe left-leaning organization at the top. And the president's passwords that were captured were all MAGA 2024. And it was entertaining for me to hear their responses when they not only realized she was using the same password for everything, but what it was. So yeah, be careful with those passwords.
And obviously, like that chart of how long it takes to crack is today's tech, and today's tech seems to only get better, more efficient in cracking, probably, right? So it's just going to get quicker and quicker to have people be able to crack simple passcodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Limiting administrative roles is really important to reduce your risk.
Mm.
Um, the some especially in smaller organizations, we'll see where the principals or the office manager will be an admin in their email tenant. And the thing about that is if we use a daily email address that we're using regularly, smart people get tricked all the time. And not even just to put in their passwords and things. You really just have to click the wrong thing. And there's kind of been this rise in the last year and a half of what they call token hijacking, where you click something and it runs a script that captures your token, the authenticated session, and bad guys just paste that in their browser and they're in. Antivirus software doesn't catch it. You don't even know because you don't put your password in, so you're not even suspicious. But if you have somebody that's an admin, then there's much more likely chance that they'll be creating new email addresses or even will hold your whole tenant hostage. So we always recommend that administrative roles are not the same as your daily driver email account, that you create a separate admin account and password. And I would say that practice should go across the board for any of our key applications that we're using. Your accountant or a principal, office manager should not have the same username as the key admin for Clio, QuickBooks, and Office 365.
And so,
Go
so
ahead.
just so I'm understanding, so they need to have a different email address, or they need to not use their email address, but use a username that's not the same as their email address, or various usernames.
Yeah, or just create a different, if I, Russ Vaughn at ascendtg.com, if that's my main email address, if I'm also going to be an admin in our Office 365 or some other business app, maybe it should be, something like admin at ascendtg.com. But it's not a
Gotcha.
mail enabled account, so it can never get phished.
Not a mail enabled account. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to even be an email address. Or it doesn't have to be an active email address
Yeah,
for
yeah, you don't have
anything.
to pay for a license on it. So it's
Right,
not like
right.
you're paying for licenses on 6 extra accounts for every platform.
Gotcha. Okay,
So,
that's helpful.
yeah. I want to talk about antivirus for a second. according to Astra Security in 2024, they put out a stat that said every year or every day, 560,000 new variants of malware are produced. Uh, that's an astounding number to even get your head around. And so with that, the reality is antivirus is not enough. If you went and bought your computer from Best Buy and have one of the out of the box antivirus solutions on it and think you're covered, what antivirus does is it just scans your computer files and it's tied to a registry out on the internet. And it says, here's all the known viruses. Were any of these installed on this computer?
Mm.
And so we do need antivirus because some of those problems are still around, but really it's a 20-year-old product looking for 20-year-old problems. But it's not enough in itself. And so what you have to have is next generation endpoint security, which is called EDR or MDR. And you want one that is SOC monitored. Now, what this stands for is endpoint detection and response or monitored detection and response. And the SOC is a security operations center where alerts are manually looked at, where a human eye is making the decision, is this a threat or not? And devices can be automatically isolated. Let me give you a quick example of this within a law firm that we work with. They had an attorney who went out onto the internet and he downloaded a template for something. Uh,
He's not doing all of it on his own. Come on.
no, I was astounded. I did thought attorneys just created this from scratch every time based on my billing experiences. But so he goes out and finds this template, downloads it, tries to open it. Nothing happened. Didn't open. He didn't think anything of it. Decided it was a bad download. Moved on. Maybe he actually logged into Westlaw to see if there was one that he could get there. But we get a call about 9 minutes later, I'm sorry, 7 minutes later from our SOC, the Security Operations Center that monitors our EDR product on all of our clients. And they said, hey, there is a known ransomware precursor that was detected on this machine at this law firm, with this user logged in. They said our attempt to isolate failed, and so can you guys use your tools and isolate that device? So, we got right to a senior engineer, got that device isolated. 11 minutes later, we were on the phone with that guy and said, hey, good news, bad news. Good news, you didn't get your firm locked down in ransomware. Bad news, we're on our way to wipe your computer.
Right.
Behind the scenes, we had to do some things to make sure that there wasn't any risk of spread and kind of collect evidence, in case there ever had to be a forensic report before we wiped and reloaded his computer. But so that's what the EDR MDR does is it looks for suspicious behavior on a device, like it watches the logs and says, hey, PowerShell is not supposed to run a script and start encrypting files, or it's not supposed to call back and install something on its own. So it looks for abnormal behavior, not just bad files like antivirus. So whatever you're doing for IT, make sure you have next generation antivirus in place.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And, you know, um, we invest in education for attorneys, for our support staff. We invest in, um, you know, uh, different ways to do our job better. We got to invest in security here. I think we have this tendency in the legal profession. I'll put myself out there that we think we can do everything. We have the skills, we have the temperament the education, the knowledge to do anything. We put our mind to it. We can figure out this security over here. We can figure out how to do that agreement over there. And uh, this is an ever changing, faster and faster moment when we need a lot of hands to help with this. And so I know it feels like, oh gosh, I gotta spend more money. Well, yeah, and maybe we're behind on what our standards are here in Nebraska, generally speaking, for client security for their information for what we're doing. But this is coming front and center pretty quickly here, and you don't want to you don't want to be the person that everyone's talking about, next week, next month, because you didn't invest some money in this more than antivirus software program that maybe makes you feel good. One thing you mentioned the other week is just where to find your if your information on the dark web. I haven't done it yet. I'm kind of scared to look at it because I'm sure it's all over the place. But there's some ways to even just understand that, is my information out there, so that you have a sense. Yeah, it is. And I think it was like I have been pwned or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, the website is haveibeenpwned.com, Pwned.
Hmm.
Um, there we go. Have I been pwned.com. So you can put your
Yeah.
email address in there and search your email address. I do personal ones, I do work ones, and it'll show you any reports of where your information has been released in a data breach. And this is one of the top 10 practices we recommend is make sure you have some form of dark web monitoring in place. So this is something that we do live for clients. And so if somebody's work email address, let's say Sheen has a data breach and their work email address pops up and maybe they even get a notification from Sheen, but they don't really think anything of it. They're like, who cares if they know, about that t-shirt I bought? But with the number of people that reuse passwords or a variant of a password, um, there's a good chance that that could give them enough that they could come try a few passwords and access your accounts. And so when somebody's work email address pops from the dark web, then we can help make sure passwords get changed before they have a data breach. On a personal note, when it comes to dark web monitoring,
Mm.
I think all of us are aware that our social security number has been released in data breaches. Time and time again, our birth date. You think about how many different websites you put your birth date. Uh, you know, hometown, mother's maiden name, like everything somebody needs to steal your identity is out on the internet multiple times in breaches. And so paying for a service like a Norton, a LifeLock, there's a few others out there that do identity theft monitoring is a very prudent use of $20 a month. Um, just to make sure somebody's not opening accounts in your name or buying a house in your name, all kinds of things you would never, want to find out the hard way.
And in terms of the determination of hey, I got phished, I got scammed, BEC used, you know, um, from what we talked about, or what the FBI talked about, they're working very hard on this, and they have so many different scams that they're trying to run down and see. Um, one thing, and where to report, right? Where to report your
Hmm.
um, what's happened to you, the ic3.gov email
Yes.
address. And I've actually now that we've talked about it, I've seen it around that the ic3.gov advertisements. If you're scammed, if you're attempted scam, put your information in there, report it, whether or not they're going to capture the person or entity going after you. Um, the FBI talked about how it's like $650,000 to extradite somebody from a Nigeria to the United States. It takes 4 years. And so there's this huge costs of doing that. So it needs to be of a certain size, and they'll proffer and try to get to the highest level they can, um, and they can recover some of these funds in crypto exchanges that will still work with them. So if you are victim of a scam, reach out to ic3.gov as quickly as possible. They can potentially bring some of that money back, help recover some of it. But you spend too much time thinking, oh, I'm going to be embarrassed by this. I don't want the exposure. Well, maybe they can't do the work if you've waited a couple weeks on that. I thought that was fascinating that they actually are still recovering. It's not all gone once it gets to the crypto exchange, and that this ic3.gov, it's an important tool. And the more information we put in there, the better they are in doing their job to see the whole scam and to shut it down.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I mean, even if they can't recover any of what somebody lost, or even if there wasn't a direct loss, but you're reporting a compromise, it helps them just put all these threads together to make cases where they can, maybe put enough together to say, hey, this financially makes sense to go after this group or actor. And then, as you mentioned about getting it back too, I think for business attorneys, if somebody gets scammed, they're gonna probably talk to their IT company, their insurance company, and their attorney is going to be one of the probably earlier conversations they have too. And so if somebody does get scammed and they can get to within a day, 2 days, 3 days, get it reported to the FBI, have their bank file a certain form, they oftentimes can help recover or stop that money from going through. So I think attorneys should be aware that that's prudent advice. Get them connected with the FBI and see if they can reverse it. If nothing else, help them build a case and hope the client had cyber insurance.
So this is kind of an aside, but one of the scenarios they talked about, one of these farmers in Western Nebraska who's, they have a lot of money throughout the year. I mean, their margins are tight, but they are sitting on a good amount of money during the year as it flows in, flows out. And I didn't know if this was a romance connection that got it going, or if it was a straight business scam
I
done,
think it
but
was a business scam, like
business
an
scam. Yeah,
investment opportunity. So
right.
they said, well, you go ahead and tell it.
But so you build a rapport, right? A slow rapport, and shoot, we get emails, but we get text messages these days. We get social media reach outs, right? They're trying to connect with us in whatever way, and they're using language that seems more and more familiar. They have books written on how to build this rapport, and so here's an investment. You know, we'll actually front you some money. We'll show you that we're legit, right? Here's some money up front, and then so he gives them some money, and they start doubling it. So he gives $10,000. They double it to 20. He throws in 100. They bring back 200, and they keep on showing they're doubling his money, and it's real money, and it's from these other scams, right? They're having other Americans pay in to this guy's account. So they're using other funds that are legit, and this guy keeps on sending more money back, and it just keeps doubling and doubling. And then it ends up, and this year, this happened to a farmer in Western Nebraska. When he sent them 10 million, they didn't send him 20 million. That's when it stopped. And his wife, very, very angry with him, is the way they reported it.
Yeah.
And I guess we're all sitting there like, why didn't this guy stop when he got $5 million? Why did he? Well, I mean, it was real money, and they they know how to talk about this. That they'll play the long game. They'll show so many signs that may be legitimate along the way. So you think of somebody who's you know 60 years old who knows a lot about business, who's been in it their whole life. All of a sudden, they can get taken, and so, while again, the hero status, it can happen to the best of us, and to clients that are what you think are sophisticated actors too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think, I've got some additional stats too on just attorney in general from the ABA and kind of where a lot of law firms tend to be for their um, cybersecurity practices, data security. So I'm trying to get to that slide. I'll share it again with you here.
And this was maybe 10 years ago, but I remember Wayne Mark at Fraser Stryker, past president of the Omaha Bar Association. He gave a talk about how he was almost, very, very almost subject to one of those business scams. And they wanted to put money in trust account at the law firm for what they said was legitimate reasons. They weren't waiting for the 2 days for it to clear to show it was actually there. And so it's been going on for years, and it'll happen. They want to do all the visits on a Sunday, and they were a foreign actor and all that. And nowadays they're going to be like, oh, well, of course. But it's more sophisticated now than ever was, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We just see so many variants of it, whether it's There was a company that somebody was pretending to be one of the partners in the firm, emailed an intern, and it was a threat actor. That senior person's account wasn't actually compromised, but they had taken out a fake email address, like one character off,
Mhm.
and emailed the intern. And here, new intern thinks one of the founding partners is emailing him, and can you go get these gift cards for me? And I think he spent a couple grand. And when they brought it to us, because it originated through email, and we said, well, the reason nobody's account's compromised, it's off by a letter. It was a legitimate email address, so spam filter didn't catch it. And so I asked them, are you guys gonna reimburse him? Are you gonna make an insurance claim? And they're like, oh, he just learned the expensive way. He just paid the stupid tax. Wait, okay, I'm harsh, but that's your business. Uh, so,
And I guess maybe it goes without saying, but we have phones and we can still use phones to like potentially pick up and say, hey, uh, just curious. I worked with you in the past. Is this legitimate? Did you send this to me? Yeah, are you using a new system? We could still use those old telephones.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I mean and there has to be a policy for wiring money for transfers for anybody who's involved with it. But voice verification and don't call the number back on the email address. Like,
No, yeah,
Google the company, find their number, and then call and ask, hey, did this really come from you? Because billions of dollars worth is going, bad guys and fake invoices. So ABA had some interesting stats from 23, 24 reports. When it comes to an incident response plan, hey, if we do get ransomware, if we do have a business email account compromised, if our line of business app, our legal documentation platform is unavailable, NetDocs, Carrot, Clio, none of them are impenetrable. I mean, they're very secure, but what happens if one of those gets hacked and you got court coming up? And so incident response plan, business continuity plan is a really important thing to take time to think through. And according to the ABA, just a little over a third have taken time to put something on paper. Stat I shared earlier about MFA, file encryption. This is an interesting one. Only 48% have some form of file encryption or email encryption. Um, do you have a secure platform or a way to request documents from people? Uh, and is it worth the trouble? Hopefully the answer is yes, but I was talking with a local law firm just the other week and asked them how they get to files from their clients. And this is a good sized firm. They said, well, we could do it, through our documentation platform, but it comes from different email address and kind of confusing and clunky. And so we just stopped doing it. Uh, Find a better way or take time to explain it to people. Like, don't send sensitive stuff through email.
yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, there are plenty of examples that I know of, just in the family law space, of clients that have their email hacked by their spouse. I mean, this is an internal actor, a known actor, but um, you know, you're sending emails thinking the other side can't see it, and they are, and they can see exactly what that correspondence is, what um, documents you've uploaded. Even in that family law space, that is certainly an issue.
Yeah, I wouldn't even thought of it in that context, but that's yeah, good use case. Um, so yeah, a couple other stats that I think pull into some best practices or advice. Only a third of firms have had a third-party security risk assessment. Uh, Third-party security risk assessments are really important. Even if you have a IT service firm that you're working with that you like, or an IT guy you feel confident in, uh, it's still important to check people's work. We have a new client that's onboarding with us, and one of my texts came in just yesterday, and he showed me. He's like, "Here's the password I got from the outgoing IT service company for their admin credentials on the firewall." He put it into a password tester, and it would take 4 minutes for a bad guy to crack that password. And then he's like, "Hey, look, I put ours in, and it was, a billion years or whatever it came up with." And so have somebody double check your security. only 40% report having cyber liability insurance. With that FBI stat from the IC3.gov website saying that the average business email compromise costs $123,000, is probably worth an extra 10 grand a year, whatever it's going to cost you to have some cyber liability, in addition to whatever might be on your regular business insurance. And then 20, this one, you mentioned the cost earlier, Dave.
Mhm.
And I think a cost that people don't assess is opportunity cost. So the ABA said that 27% of firms receive client security requirement inquiries.
Mm.
So more companies are getting smart about not just their own security, but that of who they're working with that might have access to sensitive information. So, if you're a patent attorney and somebody wants to send you some IP, they may want to know what your security is like before they're willing to work with you. And so if you don't meet those requirements, you've got lost opportunity. If you do have an incident and either it gets out from the behavior of the bad guys or makes public news, more than half of people say that they would lose confidence in a professional service firm that had a cyber incident. So it could be lost business. So it's definitely, I think, a prudent investment to make sure you're spending adequately on cybersecurity to make sure you're not the low hanging fruit.
Yeah. So Russell, I mean, we talked about it somewhat, but can you give our viewers, listeners, maybe just a kind of rundown of what you guys offer there, and certainly you have suggestions for what people can do on their own to help themselves, but uh, what you guys can do for them and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, for most of the companies we work with, we function as their outsourced IT department. We're based here in Omaha, got about 19 people on the team. And so all in different roles, security, Office 365 experts, servers, this help desk, down the line. So, we're able to kind of bring enterprise level IT solutions, support, security to the small middle market business space. So whether you're a firm of one or two people or 50 people, we can help in terms of that outsourced technology team. But
Mm.
maybe you are happy with your team, but you're thinking, man, we should really take a look under the hood and just get a third party opinion. We could come in and do a cybersecurity assessment for you. Could have some resources for pen testing if maybe you're a bigger firm, your cyber insurance might require that,
Right.
vulnerability scanning. Um, but I would say even at a light assessment level, like just to review where you stand in regard to best practices, we'd offer to the OBA, a free light security assessment and 1 hour consult, kind of give you some deliverables that you can take and figure out how to button up holes.
Yeah, in terms of so if insurance lines are needed by a firm, they may require an assessment, and the better you do on the assessment, or if we're working with somebody like you, that could help the probably the insurance rate, right? That we're paying maybe a lesser premium because we're showing that we're doing this work.
Yeah, for sure. Like most of our clients, when they get their cyber insurance applications, we have to show what boxes we check, and we always recommend putting an addendum on there to emphasize the things that weren't asked about that are in place and try to get that optimum rate.
You know, um, it's I'm just fascinated by all this. I think yeah, I mean, we're counsel in so many ways to our clients, and to be more understanding of this is just a big part of a lot of what we need to do as counsel with a small c to our clients, and to understand it. There's certainly liability, and FBI guys were talking a little bit about who's responsible, who's liable, and there's certainly parts to that we didn't necessarily get into today that I'd uh, I'd submit we need to have an attorney that maybe practices in the area rather than me and you who hear the secondhand. But talk about that. But it's there's dollars and cents behind it. There's work behind it, um, and so I think whether or not this is used for people with their clients, with their law firms, um, you know, personal life, things like that. There's just things we can do, and maybe some time to go and get that cyber hygiene cleaned up a bit, that baseline cyber hygiene and username passwords and multi-factor authentication. But um, it pound of prevention or ounce of prevention, pound of cure comes to
Yeah,
mind a little bit here. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Just clean up. 99% of email compromises don't have MFA. Just that one simple step. Kind of takes you out of that low-hanging fruit category there. And so multiply that across a few areas, and you can. It's not rocket science. It just takes some intentionality.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So if they want to get in contact with you, we'll include, I think we'll include some of these slides in the notes for anybody who wants to get in contact with you or look at it in these slides. Um, and we'll keep the conversation going. We have a new um, standing committee of the Omaha Bar Association. It's our technology and law practice committee, and we're looking at things to help attorneys and practitioners in what they do on a day-to-day basis because technology is pressing in on us at every turn, and it's something we gotta be flexible and understanding and bring into our world as law practitioners. So um, this is not the end. This is the beginning in many ways. Was there a softball that I was just to throw out to you, Russell, that we didn't get to that you want to add for the good of the audience?
No, I think we covered the bulk of it. So I hope everybody was able to hang with us. Maybe since they're hopefully sitting at a computer while watching it, they tried out the Have I Been Pwned website to make sure the information is not on the dark web. And with the stats, I think we all see the reality of the risks, and hopefully with some of the best practices, you took away at least one thing that you can tighten up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your support of the Omaha Bar Association. And I appreciate time we get to spend on the golf course from time to time at Field Club of Omaha, where our Field Day 2026 will be held on the first first Monday in June, like we do every year. So thanks for your time and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks. Take care, Dave.
Bye.